And here we go.
This is 2OF Entertainment.
Hey, here he is.
Here he is.
We're back.
Another week, and we keep on
Another
chugging.
Canadian artist.
Yeah, well, we do have a very another great artist as well.
Yeah.
Lots of great artists, but they're very unique. Every artist we have is unique in their own way in what they produce. And today, no different. We have Sharon Gallagher with us from Montreal.
Right.
And she's an abstract expressionist, painter, inspired by nature. I mean, we all have our, what inspires us, right, to do what we do. And I don't know what inspires you to get up every morning, but let's do the art show on Tuesday.
The Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve in New York City inspires me every morning. So,
but anyway, we just kind of excited to see some of her work and what inspires her to do those types of works. I mean, he's doing response work about nature, which is probably her inspiration in throughout her work, whether it be abstract or her photography. And we should bring her in and we'll just talk with her about processes. And
there she is, everybody, Sharon Gallagher. Sharon, welcome to the show. I'm going to disappear so you and Paul can speak about art and not me just going, ooh, pretty. And then I'll be back at the end and ask you questions. Enjoy your interview, my dear. Cheers.
Thank you, Stephen.
Well, good day. How are you doing? The sun came up anyway, and that's good. We have our session here today a little bit. So we in my intro, I talked a little bit because we had previous discussions about art, I guess, in general. And I thought it's really interesting to share this kind of information with people and your journey and some of those things, because everybody's is a little different. Even though we have a beginning and a middle and an end at some point. And some have it better planned than others. Some are, they just kind of, how do I put it? They go down the path of least resistance and they just follow what their heart wants to do. And is that what you are? You just kind of, or do you ever got a plan how you go about things, or is it just kind of naturally flow through you as to what you're going to do today or tomorrow?
No, I basically, since I guess 20 years I've been doing art. I have some ideas. I would like to get back to oil. I've spent about 5 years doing acrylic just to learn the aspects of acrylic that are there. But I'm an experimenter, so I paint what I please, and I'm learning more and more to do what I want to paint rather than what other people are painting. And nature to me is so strong. Like I'm looking at environmental issues right now, and I realize that I really got to. I'd like to really get the word out that nature is very precious, and so that's my motivator. I try and get I'm not. It's not a full-time job for me, but it certainly is the major part. I spend a lot of time planning. I'm in several shows, during the year, so that takes time and preparation. And I'm continuing to follow up. I do follow some teachers and keep working on my work. I'll never stop learning. I'll always be taking courses and workshops and things like that. That's the teacher in me.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to source out the ones that you want to go to. Like that's really important. The types of workshops that you want to do that add to, I guess, what you do, to find out how to do certain things. And it could even be just learning a technique on how to use a certain medium. Whether you're going to follow what the instructor does exactly doesn't matter. But when you leave it, you take a certain percentage of that information with you and implement it into your processes if that works. And I think that's important. So how do you think a lot of artists are thinking about the same kind of things, the nature and the aspects that our environmental issues that are happening and how we're affecting things?
I think, it's very much up to the artist. I'm with several groups of artists, and they all have different focuses. So it's not a big. I don't think we have things in common. We have, I think, in common what we want to relay the message, whatever it's deepest to us. We want to relay that message.
Right.
I feel very strongly that we're not going to have the same world for our grandchildren and their grandchildren that we have now, and we're losing so much. Um, so for people to even stop and look at something and maybe take a minute to consider that they actually have control over the environment and our world, that's basically that's where I'm going in my direction. And I feel the impetus to paint, to show people, to try and get them to see that.
Yeah. So do you do that throughout some of your shows? Have you shown us some public showings other than commercial showings, or do you do just pop-up shows?
No, I've done shows since 2009, and I've been in juried shows and small shows. But I think the one that I love the most is an art hop that happens at the end of May for me. This is my third year doing it,
Mm.
and it's where the community comes in and looks at the artist in their atelier and sees what they do and asks questions, because art's for everybody. It's not a highfalutin kind of place that you have to have all these big words. I'm not into that at all.
Yeah.
So for me, it's to help the children and the parents and the families and the grandparents and just general people in the world be aware of art and how they can do it, and appreciate it. It's not a highbrow thing that has to be in galleries all over the place.
Yeah. I think children are big influencers in their families.
They are.
And I've seen it specifically through COVID and different things in my area where I live. Um, I have a little gallery window outside my studio, and I change it. I used to change it weekly, and in those days, the kids would all wanted to come and see it. Well, they dragged mom and dad to look at it. So now mom and dad were looking at some art
Yeah.
in this little window, but they would have walked right by it
Mhm.
without before. But now the kids actually stop and look at it, and the kids they're the magnet. And you're right. I think if your work can speak to children, um, it can speak to adults, or maybe it goes over their head sometimes, but the kids can usually get it if kids look at it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be really simplistic work. I mean, it can be as simple as they like those colors or shapes or whatever. They see things in your work that other people don't see. So do you find that with your work? We're going to get Stephen to start up our first shot here, and we'll
I had one work that was The World of Greed, and it was two kids, and they were under 10, that stood there and looked at it, and they understood my world of greed. This one is a more of an internal one. It's a watercolor on Saint Ambroise paper, which is we're very lucky to have in Montreal. It's a very thick, rough, wonderful paper,
yeah.
and it's one that I like a lot. It's saying my inner feelings, I guess.
Yeah, it's a very warm feeling. I mean, I really have uh, I always find things in work, and I feel these dragonflies flying around in the sun in it, and I feel there's these insect aspects to this piece, and I just love the vibrance of it. And I mean, the characters of nice line work and some weight and some color and some balance, and I think it's a substantial painting. I'll put it that way, and it's not very large. I don't think, is it? This one?
No,
Yeah.
how big is that one? I think it's 10 by,
So
and yeah, it's inner strength. It's 10 by 4. It's a small one.
10 by 4. Oh,
Yeah.
smokes. So do you work up like small pieces that may influence other pieces? So do you do what you could handle that day? Do you think a small piece of paper that you have, and then you move on to something larger? You say that inspired something else?
Well, I do. I go through series. Like I do watercolor as well as oil and acrylic and pencil. I do a lot of the mediums, but I have some watercolors that have inspired me to go larger, and I go as large as 40 by 40, or I'd like to go even larger sometimes. But it's tricky, carrying around things that are bigger than 40 by 40.
Yeah, well, that's why my left arm is longer than my right arm because
Oh yeah.
carrying the drawing board was always under my left arm when I went to college, and so it was like the same thing. You have to tape a large piece of paper to a board, and you take it someplace. So do you paint in your studio, or do you have places that with a group? Do you paint with any groups or?
I paint with several groups. I've done travel groups throughout the world. I've gone with we call ourselves trippy artists. So we've gone in Europe and we've gone to Southeast Asia and different places, and that's been a lot of inspiration for me.
Right.
Um, but I also am a member of a studio group, and we meet over the year and visit the museum oftentimes, and just maybe go through and analyze the art there, which is really fun. And it's kind of nice to be with a group of other artists, because I get the influences, and the feedback, and it's a sense of community. So that's a particularly nice plus for me. And I just got off a Zoom call from the trippy artists. Actually, we were looking at our work, and we make comments to it, whatever.
Yeah.
Now,
It's
this
good.
one I had very long arms, because this one I've hugged. I really have. This is a 40 by 40, which is quite large.
It is. Yeah. Well, for some, especially if is it on paper or on board?
Oh no, this is on wood. This
It's
is
on.
flowing blue, and it's an oil, and it's 40 by 40.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can see the real difference between the previous one and this one. I mean, there is, not only the mediums, but so is this one more an oil? This one?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So no, it's got a richness to it, but very richness. I had to put this in. I think you use this one on our site as well, just as this is me. Like when you show a shot like that, it's sort of saying, try to find one image that says you, right? In your oeuvre of work, right? You try to say, I don't know if I could find one piece that says, well, this is me. This is the kind of stuff I do. Is this that kind of shot though? Say, if I had one shot, would this be the one that you'd
No,
show?
probably not. I mean, I love this piece,
Yeah,
but I have one that's watercolor. That's kind of like a self-portrait, but doesn't look like a self-portrait. But it's. I have a couple. I mean, I'm a lot of things, and I'm evolving.
yeah,
I have one that's Red Lake Lady and her creatures. I very much love animals, and animals love me. And so I have a one that's just a person standing, and there's different elements that are around. But
So do you
this
feel?
one, it's me in that it's flowing, and I love water, and
Yeah,
in that way.
there a lot of times it's in the choice of colors. That is that kind of feel like your color palette, or is this there? It's a cool. It's got some purples and some deep indigos and a little bit of yellows into that. Is that the kind of your color? How you see yourself as a color in the color?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, I'm going to move on.
It's one that I like. I love this. This one could be part of it. I'm doing that more, but I've done a lot of colors.
Right.
Um,
Well,
on red is there. Go ahead.
no, this one's a bit more open feeling than the previous one. This. I guess what I'm just saying, if we go back to, looking at this one, it is a full color, all four sides. It's got a heavier bottom and in color value and at the top. So it is. There's not as much depth in this piece. Where this piece really, this is an open piece. Like, so what kind of influences when you say now? Is this a monoprint of style, or is this
No,
just painterly
this is oil on Yupo,
on
which is
Upo? There
yeah,
you go. It's a surface that's so smooth, isn't it? It's
yeah,
got a
yeah.
you
And
can really
those are fun. I did a series of those. They're just fun to do.
yeah. So again, they're smaller pieces in themselves. Or
Yeah.
yeah, quarter sheets or something, whatever. And yeah, but they're so this thing. Do you kind of just use a palette to pull color around, or just a brushwork, or anything you have in your hand? Is that what you use to build these with?
Well, basically, again, I explore, and I wanted to see what I could do with Yupo and what mediums I could put on it. So I tried watercolor, I tried acrylic, I tried oil. This is with oil,
Yeah.
And I really quite like what it does. I've done a series of it. But yes, I have a palette. I mean, this is a cerulean blue, and it's got the umbers in there. And I
Yeah.
particularly like that combination. Those two colors are very much fun. But I have other palettes that are, more on the red or a blue and orange or whatever. Um, I've experimented with a lot of them. I like this palette, but
Yeah.
it's not the only palette that I use.
Yeah. No, it's got a real nice gray values you can get out of it. It's got a nice warm and cool with the umber, especially with Yupo. You can thin paint up to give you that
Yeah.
really nice soft beigey kind of color. Yet you can get umber. You mix a little bit of indigo or blue with that, and you get black. Like gives you quite a range with maybe two colors.
Mhm.
So do you like that monochromatic aspect of things where you have maybe no more than two colors in a palette and see what you can get out of those colors? Is that
I'm working on that more
yeah,
lately,
yeah,
um, and working on making my edges softer and more varied. Um, the textures in different degrees of thickness. Like my next project is to get into the more thicker part. I've done thick paintings before where I put on a lot of acrylic or the oil is quite textured.
right.
And then I've gone over this last couple of years, I've gone to more slender. They're not as dense. But my next plan is to go back more into the oil and into the textures.
Yeah. It's really hard to get soft edges on Yupo. It's just it's just such a slick surface on it. It's sort of like watercolor on a hot press paper. And it's hard. You've got to really know what you're doing to not have a hard edge or on a hot press paper.
Yeah,
But no, I love this. I love the freeness of it. It feels very um, it's very natural. It's actually a very natural feeling of brambles and bushes and twigs and things. I can feel those. Do you sense that looking for the feeling of nature in your work? Is that one of the things that you sense that you try to feel that? And when you have that moment, it works.
yeah. That one I just like the different textures and like if you look at the right hand, the lower right hand with the turquoise structure there, I like the little lines that are there.
Yep.
And some of those are deliberate, but some of them, you have to work with what you've got. It's working with the paper or working with the medium, and that's what I really like. I've had a very inspiring um, watercolor teacher, Elizabeth Galante, and she's just amazing. And she's helped us, I think, over the years just to look and see how far you can go with your colors and how
Yeah.
deep you can make them. And
Yeah.
so that's helped me a lot.
Yeah, when you load a brush with two different colors, you really don't know exactly what you're going to get. You can then, with experience, you can anticipate what's going to happen a bit, but it will create those magic moments just from repetition and doing it over and over and practicing. And you know that certain two colors work together on a loaded brush on a big flat or something that you put down,
Yep.
but even on a good round. Yeah, yeah.
And it
This one
is.
is this on paper? This one as well, right? This is on that
Yes,
rough.
this is a
Yeah,
watercolor. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, but see, I can see the similarity between your mediums, which is really nice to see that you have a consistent style. That without putting your name on it, I could almost say, well, this one's Sharon's work. I mean, I could say that these ones kind of belong together, knowing that Yupo is quite different than this paper.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the inspiration of this kind of work for you? Like,
This one in particular, I was in Spain and I was in the caves of Nerja, and they have lights in the Spain. I just went nuts. I take pictures. But I just went crazy with the impact just of seeing the different shapes and the wetness and the dryness and the sounds in the cave. It was amazing. And when we went to Vietnam, again, I went into the caves. I'd love to be a cave woman, I guess is what I'm saying. But what was amazing with this, and there's another one as well, was that there were all these like magic little spots, little sections
Yeah.
that was just so alive. You don't think of caves as being alive, but the colors were, and the colors just. So I came
Yeah.
out and painted and painted and painted.
Yeah. So where do the colors come from within the cave? It's just the materials that are in the cave, the minerals,
Yes, yes.
and the way they lit them in the cave so they sparkled and different things.
Well, like in the minerals, they actually dissolve with, with the drips. I mean, some of them
Okay.
have taken like
So
thousands of years to actually drip down and make that contour.
so there's
So,
stalactites that are in the cave that
yeah,
were forming these colors and stuff.
yeah.
That would be very interesting, especially as inspiration. To go instead of just nature outside of a cave that everybody sees. Excuse me. Not everybody goes in a cave. They don't understand this kind of color that you see because they've never experienced it. But it's nice that maybe it will inspire some people to go in some of these caves if they go to those areas.
Oh, yeah, and to see it. And this one again was there, and this is hidden gold. And that's what I found there. It was like, if you really look, you stop running and you look at things. It's amazing what you see. And
Right.
I've trained my eye, but you see, I was I was a nurse and I was teaching nursing, so I've used my whole body to help people heal. And when I finished nursing and teaching, I wanted to do perhaps go away from the human body and look at the earth body and see all the amazing places and things that we have here. So
Yeah.
this is my way of zooming in. I do zoom in and I'll look at things and I see lots of colors. And you can put any color you want. These are similar to the colors, but they were probably, well, they're more exaggerated because I wanted people to see the difference.
Yeah. Do you feel art is healing? Is art healing for people?
I think it can be.
Yeah.
I think, I guess that it's children that have taught me. I've been a maternal child nurse for a very long time, and children have taught me that, if you just stop and look at things, you can learn things. And little kids, when they're in trouble or worried, sometimes they can draw things that can tell us a lot more than words can tell us.
Right.
So that's what I'm trying to use is my eyes to to show what I see, and I'm hoping that they might see as
Right.
well.
Yeah, this is a very beautiful, bright colored piece. Yeah, it's got there's a lot of energy in this piece. I think it's just not only color energy, but line work. And I just, it's kind of it's but it's still part of your look as far as what your body of work looks like. And I just,
This is probably the last one is probably me. If you wanted to say
that's
what's
you.
Sharon Gallagher, that's Sharon Gallagher, I'd say.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got that. There's that, I guess it's that the looking aspect in you, like you're responding to what you see in your own way and say, yeah, you're right. How do I convey that to other people, my feeling that I had here, not only while painting this, but the vision that you had when you did it. So I think it's very inspiring. I think very much so. This was a little different, but color wise. But can you? Is this a winter inspired piece of some kind, or
No, this is one of my thistle series. I
ah,
did a series on thistles as a plant that's the first survivor after man has destroyed the earth. A thistle, although it's considered to be a weed, is one that actually helps the earth to start um, recovering and starts to fertilize and do whatever. So that is, in my relation to nature and climate change and the destruction that man's making. And this is just an angle of a thistle. I mean, I have the
ah,
thistles along the side, and it's kind of bleak. I've left it more white there because I really want the oranges and the browns to come out, and it's it's the it's the harshness, maybe the harshness of the thistle, but yet it's the love of the earth that the thistle actually helps the earth recover and then prepare the earth for other plants to come.
No, it's good to hear the story behind it, because I think so many people, especially farmers, the first thing they do is they use Roundup and they try to kill all the thistle or some different things. It's the first thing in the field they remove. Yet I've seen some beautiful big thistles that are growing in some. I guess they'll be in some side yards for industry and different things along a fence line or in a ditch. And some of the beautiful, magentas that are in some of these big tall thistles that I've seen. Some of them be 3-4 feet high. They're beautiful,
But
and
thistles are not,
there's quite a variety of them.
but they're not, like they're not necessarily beautiful. I guess for me, what I see is that thistles are part of nature. Just like when you're logging, what they'll do is they'll agitate the earth, they'll cut the logs down, and then they leave it, and the earth is really in trouble. And it's plants like this, like when you go into an old forest, one of the things you want to do is leave it be and let the decaying trunks stay there. You don't have to be neat and tidy and clean it all up, because all of those, everything that's in that decaying log, for example, is going to help reinvigorate the earth and actually let a forest
Right,
recuperate from the intrusions. And
right.
it's that kind of thing. I guess I'm trying to get that. It's not necessarily a beautiful plant. It's an interesting plant. I mean, I've done all aspect, topical and lateral and all kinds of different feelings about the thistle. But it's what the thistle does that's important. We
Okay.
think it's a weed.
Well, yeah, if it's not productive, we label it, and if we can't produce something from it, but yet you can have. I think nettles is part of the thistle family as well, and they
Probably, yeah.
make different things from it. And no, it's an interesting. I just like that the inspiration is so it's strong, like in the pieces. It's not just a pretty painting. That's I'll put it for lack of words. There's beauty in different things, and you can zoom in and zoom out um, on a subject matter to make things stand out a little bit more in your way. And I think that's finding your vision. That's how you do. That's how you think and how you work. And I think it's important. This one's a little bit more refined piece that you worked on here, I think. Uh,
This is in a crab apple tree, and it's an oil. It's a triptych, and this is one of my first paintings that I did.
oh, okay.
But there's two things I guess I'd say about them. One is that this is my love tree. My boys gave me this tree, and it means a lot to me. So it's always been beloved, I guess is a good word.
Hmm.
But the other thing is this was an experiment in painting where I took blacks and I used every kind of black that they had and mixed them with yellow. So all the greens that are there are made from black and yellow. There are no blues. There's no. It's only black and yellow.
Yeah. No, it's a good challenge. People don't realize that you can mix that black and yellow make green in a lot of in that. And I didn't realize that. So yeah. So does an ivory black will be different than a different black that
Then a
you?
Mars black or a charcoal black or a black, I should say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a good challenge to figure that out, because I think.
Well, a lot of times people will say don't use black. So I figure when someone tells me not to do something, I go and do it. But I was, trying to see. And the greens, I mean, I haven't been able to get greens like that from other combinations. So it was
Yeah.
fun.
Well, there's probably when you go into a store, you'll see 100 or 200 different colors pre-mixed in a tube that you can buy off the shelf, so you don't have to mix any color. But I think the real thing in an artist is to learn how to mix your colors. You don't
Yeah.
need, yeah, you don't need 200 colors. I mean, the store loves it that you buy 200 colors, but you can't. First of all, you can't lug that around with you when you go to Europe in your backpack. 200 colors, so you have to choose. It's nice to understand that. Gee, I could take a black or two blacks and a yellow and then you add a red to it, and you can probably leave with 8 or 10 colors, and you have enough to to do what you want to do.
Well, I mix my own colors. I do use some some mixes, but not many, and I find that way I can keep it doesn't become muddy, and it also I can keep my palette better. So that's what I've learned over the years, anyway.
And I find I even sometimes there's artists trying to they'll squirt out one of everything on their palette, and you find they really haven't made. They say, well, what if I need that color somewhere in my palette? And so they'll squirt out 3 reds, a bunch, and the whole rainbow of color in their palette. And they only use a certain portion of it, or they use a little bit of everything, and it turns to mud, especially if it's watercolor. It shows up real quick. You can have oils are not too bad. You can overprint or overpaint. That's the problem with the watercolor. Once it's done, you can only get darker. But
Well, I think with watercolor, when you have that problem, you just go on to another piece of paper. It's
well,
easier on your spirit.
yeah, I've seen some people just gesso the paper and get into acrylic on it. But I love this piece. There's just the looseness, yet it's uplifting. It's just a nice little uplifting piece. A nice little, not every petal painted, and it's just this. It feels like an early French cartoon. They used to do these loose cartoons like in the early 40s and 50s.
Oh, yeah.
And it was characters that were just done sketchy like, and they would, I can't explain it, but it feels loose but not loose. It just, that's what I like about it. I know what it is without, it feels like it's been done in a few minutes, but it feels finished. It has
Well,
that.
this was my Thanksgiving during COVID.
Mhm.
Just one of the things that I really appreciated was my garden, and I just wanted to say thank you. So it's called Thanksgiving, and the reason being is that these were the flowers that gave me so much joy in that summer when it was so tricky. So there's a lot of emotion in this, and I really just wanted to get the feeling out without getting too detailed in the content of which each petal and that
Yeah.
I try not to do that.
Yeah. It's uh, I'll do some different types of floral things too, but more in sculpture now. But and flowers are one of my favorite things to do. Um, but I just like the light that's in the background, the backlit feeling. It's washy, but it has a nice warm light. It feels like it's glowing and coming through, and it's nice to know that it was COVID inspired by your garden. I think we all kind of looked, maybe more looking back now at what did we do during COVID? What kind of work did we do? Did it inspire what we're doing now because we thought we were locked down and we needed more time to ourselves, or we thought we had time to ourselves more so than we previously like we have now. But anyway,
Well,
it's
one of
it's
the things that I saw with COVID was that I found there was so much coming at us that I literally, when I was listening to the news, had to just draw. And I did a lot of paintings during that time, just drawing. Um, and a lot of them were very convoluted because the information we were getting was convoluted and not clear.
yeah.
And I found that was it kind of was an extra impetus for me to become even deeper into my work and realizing that I need to paint or draw daily because when I don't, it's just not the same. I
So
had
you
done a couple of times in contests. I had done 30 paintings in 30 days several years ago, and that taught me that you don't you do a painting, you do your best, and if you're only doing one a day and you only have a certain period of time, then you do the painting and then it's finished, and then the next day you go on to another one, and the next day you go on to another one. And that's where I did a lot of experimentation about painting and methods, as well as looking at like I used gouache, I used watercolor, I used graphite. I used Yupo. I used, canvases. I used all kinds of different papers. And for me, that's how I was able to feel more comfortable in what I was doing. And I'm not afraid to try, So I don't
I,
know. COVID's been good too.
I think a lot of artists got a lot of work done.
Mm.
But it's nice that you create projects for yourself like that. So you feel like the outside environment is really affecting daily work, like so the news and the items and the disruptions of our, I guess, our social life outside is really affecting what we do in the studio sometimes. Do you feel
Yeah.
that happen? Yeah.
Sometimes with some of the news, I just feel that I need to go and do something positive, because I'm trying to keep a positive spirit. And I think if we all get depressed, we'll be in a very bad state of affairs.
Yeah.
And painting is me. I love to dance with it. I love to touch it. I love to smell it. I don't taste it, but just it helps me a lot to work through things.
Right.
This was I was just so happy. I just so much enjoyed, and I was very thankful to the nature that I could enjoy these flowers because they made such a difference to me and my family, in the summertime of COVID. So,
Yeah. No, it's got a joy in it. There's definitely that loose, free joy, yet there's structure and
well, good. Then you got my message.
yeah. Well, I did. If you can get through to me, you can probably get through to most anybody. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, I enjoyed the piece. It's so different than your other pieces, though, right? So it's your other pieces are a bit more abstract. So you move back and like the previous one with your apple tree. You said that was the early stages of
Yes.
your work, and it was more defined. And this is an apple, and this is what an apple looks like, and this is what leaves look like, and understanding color. And you look at the growth of an artist. It's nice to see where they're going. So this, when you put these pieces of work on your wall, if you had a gallery wall long enough, where I began and where I am and where I'm going and where I want to go, right? Is there a place that you're reaching for yet, or is it just done in little pieces at a time until you find you get there? Is that how
Mhm.
you'd look at it?
No,
Can you
I would
can you
say
can you
that.
plan can you plan ahead where you're going? Is there a way of doing that?
Oh yeah, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I never had time when I was working in my career before to do a lot of painting and whatever. But I guess my bottom line has always been to work on children's books. And actually, I have several pieces that are um, mostly for kids. I have a painting that's at the Montreal Children's Hospital. It's in what do you call it, a mosaic, and it's a rabbit. And the reason that it's a rabbit is that as a nurse teacher, I taught my students and also the patients how things were going. So if they were going to go for an X-ray, I had this rabbit that was like a dollar store plastic rabbit, and I would talk to him and say, "Oh, Charlie's going for an X-ray. Do you know what that is?" And the rabbit never knew. So I had to explain it in the rabbit. And the rabbit people began to know me as the lady with the rabbit because I would always explain it. And the parents would sit there and laugh. But in talking to the rabbit and the child, everybody understood better because this rabbit was not very bright. Anyway, so for me to donate this painting of a rabbit to the children's was really important to me because anything to make life a little easier for the family and the child particularly who's ill. And I guess I learned that kids have symbols and to do, I guess the feeling I have with children is, well, I love them very much. And so a lot of my work, it's got the direction of going towards a children's book.
Yeah. No, those are good. Those are good aspirations to have. I mean, I don't know how many books are being published right now. They're all self-published. It's a whole other industry of understanding, but between the imagery and the writing and the publishing, and it's an 80-20 rule. 20% work, 80% marketing and selling the darn thing.
Oh, I know. That's
Brutal. So you have to do it for the love of yourself, right? But there are print on demand, so there's ways of doing it,
yeah,
and enjoy what you can. Those things. So you've traveled a little bit,
I
and
have. This is Africa.
hmm,
And this is a tree that really impressed me. It was the light. It's always the light that impresses me because
yeah,
I see that. I see the difference between Africa and Provence and, Spain and Canada and Quebec and Newfoundland and BC. There's different light there.
there's-
And this one was quite amazing. This tree, just
yeah.
so it
Yeah, it's
was.
difficult with people doing. I guess we'll call it silhouettes of nature, but this one's not solid, blocky, solid black. In what you're doing, you still can sort of see through it. You can still, it's still there, but you can see it in a sunrise or a sunset. In Africa was kind of known that always the sunset, the dark, and the tree silhouettes that are on the horizon
Mhm.
line, or the giraffe or something that is going along, and you always get the feeling that, oh, that's Africa. It's almost. I looked at this initially and I thought, oh, it's got to be Africa. She must travel to Africa at some point. So beautiful piece. No, dealing with I guess structures again. You're dealing with, how do I form a tree? Like, it's not exactly how the tree is, but it tells me it's still a tree. It tells me the kind of tree it is, and it's sometimes a difficult thing for people to do, and they understanding it's sort of like a sketch in your book, but bigger. It's captured a moment. So I kind of like it
Well,
that.
oftentimes I'll take a picture. I mean, I do photography as well, and my main reason for doing photography is to have a reference for myself to paint. But I don't paint exactly everything that by the tree, in that tree. That took
Yeah,
to get the dimension. It took me a long time. I mean, it was you don't just sort of casually say, oh well, I'll just put a couple of little squigs up here and there. I mean, you can do a tree like that, but
yeah,
But when
yeah.
I went with the group of trippy artists again, we went to Cambodia, and one of the things that I really, really wanted to see were some of the old structures where the trees have taken over. I mean, it
No,
sounds like I'm anti-civilization. Maybe I am, but I love it when nature takes over man's structure. And I really wanted to
yeah,
go to Cambodia because I wanted to see these tree roots that absolutely destroyed all these old structures.
yeah,
And, like I really feel man has taken over nature and that's not a very there used to be a 50-50 going on and it's not happening anymore. So to see the amazing power of nature and what it can do to man-made structures was fun.
mhm.
I've
I
admitted it.
think, yeah. Well, I think you and I are on about the same page when it comes to nature, and that seems to be, and it's the way it's being disseminated and destroyed and used like a factory at times. It's an endless resource that it is not. But there's some humanity in nature of some kind that we should be responsible to, and we are only stewards of this land, and we should be taking care of it better than we do. But we always seem profit in dollars at some point, and it doesn't. I, I tend my work tends to go that way as well, and so I can empathize with what you're doing, and understand that it's really important that artists do some of these things, that if they feel compelled to be brave enough to do it. Like, that doesn't mean you have to do all your work like that in that way, but um, some artists live life two ways of life. One is their agitation life, that they can get all their frustration out one way, and then the other one is, I got to sell some work to afford to do my the other stuff that I like that's not selling, but is motivating people and understanding and teaching. And I think artists do see things that maybe the general public do not see at times, and they respond to it. Kids see things that adults don't see, all kinds of things like that. So it's important to bring those up front and say this is important today. And I like that you're doing that. And I think this picture is behind you, in your
Yes, it is
studio.
actually.
Yeah.
It just came back. It's going to a show with Women's Art Society from the 1st of May to the end of May.
Mm.
And this is a 40 by 30, and it's acrylic, and it's more realistic. Um, this is probably going to be the first of a series because I tend to work in series, and I'd like to do more on this, the basic vegetables and fruits that are sustainable, but they're Canadian. They're not mixed. They're not. Um, they're the survivors. They're how we actually can sustain ourselves.
Right. I,
So
I yeah, I love the silhouette how you can see the seed pod, the peas are inside the pod,
yeah.
which is a very it's a protective shell, which is very it has a lot of symbolism to it.
Mm.
So
And
it's
it's
like a cocoon,
yes.
the cocoon where you can see sometimes you can see the moth that's gonna come from inside the silk. So
Well,
it's
the inspiration came from Concordia University. Um, they have gardens on some of their land, and this is all sustainable practices. They don't have herbicides. It's all naturally grown, and I just got so excited. Like, I guess that's what happens to me. I see something that makes me so excited. I just have to paint it. And, I sort of felt a little self conscious because I was thinking, who's going to want to even look at a pea pod? And I figured, I do. So I'm going to do it. And I worked hard to get that light. I'll work again and try some other ones. But I had gone and got at one of the libraries the different kinds of traditional seeds that we have. And I'm trying very hard to, I have a garden and I grow things as well. So I see the struggle of plants to stay alive, and I see how different plants can help them grow and bring the bees and the all that kind of
yeah,
growing that can go on.
yeah. So
So
your
for me,
research the research becomes really important for authenticity and I guess the integrity of the piece. Is that where you'd say
yeah,
for the
I do
research?
I do a lot of research on it. I look at it and learn about it and learn its names, and I'm hoping that, that people will take a little time and maybe even if it's one plant, one painting of one plant that, "Oh, well, maybe I never thought of that. Did you ever see the sun, coming from the backlit, sun coming in and seeing how neat that was?" It's kinda
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So
I don't know how many people have actually picked peas. You've got to come from a
oh.
background of picking peas, the smell of them.
Oh,
But
my grandmother's place, yes, I loved
mm,
picking peas.
yeah, and it's usually like a hot day, and
Yeah.
so yeah, they get and actually the little pea flowers, the flowers when they're flowering is quite a nice thing to see on the vine.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
pretty.
And they grow fast, amazingly fast. Then we come to this piece, and this is one of the pieces we talked about earlier, and I still go back to this piece, um, the inspirations of it. Can you talk to this piece specifically about? I guess it's bright and light, and it's very tree forest like, but sparse. It's got this open space, and it's
This is just away from trail. I'm a cross country skier and a snowshoer. I work very hard for my pictures. I go into nature and I either take the kayak or I take the the,
well, good.
whatever.
Yeah.
But this was it was at the end of a woods at the end of the day, and soon the sun was going to go, but there was this place that was full of light. This is Yupo and watercolor, And I also have pen as well in there.
Yeah. Mixed media.
And yeah, and it was this one. This one was on Yupo. Some of the other ones were on watercolor paper, and it was just such a discovery. Again, it was one of those wow places. So I took a lot of pictures, but
Yeah.
the pictures were a guide because I wanted to have that feeling. I'm very pleased that you have that feeling because
Yeah.
that's what I want to translate. It's the amazing um, effect of nature can make you feel happier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I'd
they're
love.
not
Yeah.
always great pictures. I won't always make you feel happy, but I hope that many will be.
Yeah. This one would be amazing if it was 5 foot, 5 foot painting, like
Yeah, it would
big,
be.
because it would just bring you right in. You'd be in the moment if you could capture this kind of feeling. It's hard to replicate something that you made smaller on a different medium and try to say, I'm going to do one. It really ever never turns out. It's rare. It becomes something else completely, but it's maybe would inspire something. But this would be a very beautiful piece, larger. And it would draw you into that moment. Very, very, very nice piece.
You've picked
I
one
just
of
love
my
to,
favorite pieces.
yeah. Well, it gives me, and even though it's wintertime, it gives me a feeling there's still depth in there, and yet you've really made me feel those branches are really close to me in
Mhm.
the foreground, and there is a. I just love the breakup of space, and there's lots of when you're just spontaneous, design things just happen automatically, and it's because your mind thinks about this is what it needs and what it does and does a nice job. But it's a beautiful, yeah,
Thank
beautiful
you.
piece. This one, can you explain this one? This one really has me turned around because it's really the bark and the tree bark, I guess, is what it would be, right? Is that what we're looking at?
This is the interior. This is a mother tree. The
Oh,
mother tree is what it's called. And if you look into the center, more towards the left, you'll see there's a tiny little cocoon there. And that's her ovary. And that's new life. But what's interesting about this is that this is a tree in Arlington Cemetery. And a friend of when I was in a course, we did a challenge. She had the usually I take my own pictures and use them as inspiration. I don't tend to always use like other people's pictures. But
yeah,
this one I really wanted to show, and I had been reading a fair amount about trees and tree communication and whatever else. And so the mother tree is the one that's the foundation and basically nourishes all the trees around them, all the biomass around the tree. And so that's what I was trying uh, to
okay,
explain. And it's one of the few that actually looks a bit like a human body. I've not used the human body um, at all in my work, but I think it was the only way I could explain how important the mother tree was and having trees in groups that were actually there. So that's
right.
basically my story.
Yeah, we understand that. And I mean, like you said, that one tree spawns a large amount of trees around it under the ground. And you can harvest the other ones around it. But if you harvest the mother tree, you've kind of, you can decimate a forest. But
Yep. Yep.
yeah, it's, there's an
This,
explosion of color. This feels like the bank of a. So this is an actual landscape painting, but done abstractly? Is this what you'd say then?
no, this is thistle. This is thistle fluff. And
It
what it
is. Yeah,
is,
okay, now I get it. I understand. It's this whole fluff. Okay. Yeah.
and I
Yes.
basically was fooling around here with texture, and I still have more to learn. But this one taught me a lot about texture with acrylic, thin acrylic, and but I was this is part of the thistle series that I had. I have about
Mm,
8 or so thistles in different shapes and forms, and I had fun with this one. It was
yeah.
fun to do. So I used my palette knife. I used I used my paintbrush as well. I used credit cards. I used all kinds of things.
That's a good thing to use credit cards for right now.
Oh yeah, I mean it's much you save a lot of money that way.
Yeah, you do.
So
Yeah, and they don't work on the machine very well after you use them.
no, that's true.
No, I see this embankment from here. It's
Hmm.
like looking up at a bank, the side of a lake side or something, and you can
Hmm.
see the forest at the top. I just love that it's got a large presence in the bottom. That the spatial design aspect has changed. Large piece at the bottom and very minimalist with the whites and the fluff,
Mm.
and then this very dramatic piece at the top that's just it just snaps and just yeah. I like the experimentation in what you're doing. I do.
And that one's a 20 by 20, so it's a bigger one.
It's
It
a
looks
big
very nice on a wall. Looks
one.
very, very nice on a wall.
So I can see the growth sort of where we've come from to this piece is oral is beautiful. It feels very Japanese to me. That feels very Chinese Japanese. In other words, a lot of times I was put in with a one brush stroke almost, and the feeling. The design is simplistically placed, but effective. Like it's very beautiful. Like it's
Thank you.
yeah. I think I just love that warm color background. Is this on Yupo as well? This one?
No, that one is it's on watercolor paper.
It's on watercolor paper.
It's
Yeah,
Arches probably,
yeah.
because you can
So
tell by the texture in the tree there on the right hand side.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. So do you work on different media? So you'll do a watercolor, but you can work with like you've got some drawing, the lines in there on the edges. What is that done with? Just a paintbrush or
That was no, that was with a colored a pen actually. It was a not an acrylic pen. I think it was a watercolor pen or
a watercolor pen? Okay,
like that.
yeah.
But
No, it's
I've also done some that what I'll do is I'll do a watercolor and then I'll do some ink over it.
mhm.
Or where I'll have a watercolor and I'll put like you can see there's green over there. I put some little lines on, but not too much, just enough to sort of bring it up a bit.
Mm.
And
No, it just has a very nice feeling. It's you didn't have to fill the whole forest in. I just you told me a little bit about what you do. It's sort of like you caught the edge of the forest and you're walking one way and yet it's still this light piece in the background where it's the unknown a little bit.
mm.
And I kind of yeah, and
And
lovely piece.
one thing I've learned with snowshoeing is that when you go in one direction, you see some things, but if you go back, you see other things. And it's the same things that you're looking at. And I
Yeah,
guess what I found, because I was cross country skiing before, you're going a lot faster. You don't stop and sketch or take pictures too often. You're going with, but with snowshoeing, I'm in the woods, and it's like I'm in this safe womb. It's just that the sun is there, the wind is around, but it's not too cold, and it's just this wonderland for me. I
yeah,
just love it. And I guess that's what you're seeing there, is that
that's what I'm seeing. I mean,
yeah.
I see pure joy in the work that you're producing. And well, is this a winterscape? This one
This one
inspired?
is a winterscape. This is a scene from the woods, so I'm
Yeah,
looking at it. But
yeah.
actually, what I started with was a birch tree. And if
Mhm.
you look at it, it's very much the texture with the lines and the different coloration of a birch tree,
Yeah.
of the actual outer part of the birch tree.
Oh, the birch. Yeah, the wrap on the birch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and then
So
from there, I get a lot of interpretations with this one. This one's been shown and it's won a couple of awards. And people have all kinds of ideas that they figured they're going to say, well, this is a race, or it's some
I
people think
like
it's a
that's
horse
the
race.
magic.
I don't know.
That's the magic when people can see something
Yeah.
that they can respond to
Yeah.
that reflects on it's a mirror for them. They can see themselves and see their story in there. And it's the journey is over here for a minute, but it's been quick. My goodness, the time went by fast. But I love what we've had a conversation about your work, and it's beautiful.
Well,
Oh,
thank
there he
you.
is. He's
Yeah,
Yeah, the
there's Steve
killjoy
too.
is here. I'm
the
sorry.
killjoy is
So
there.
Sharon, here's the question I ask every artist. What is your work range from what to what? price wise?
That's a big
Oh,
thing.
price wise.
Yeah.
I price it by size. And
Okay.
like one of the larger ones, also the framing. Now the framing has gotten very expensive. I do believe, like if you look in the back and you see my pea pod, that would
Mhm.
be 1,500. But 400 of that is the price for the frame, because for a larger one,
Gotcha.
and because I'm dealing with nature, I try and do at least some work on wood and with some
Mhm.
wood frames, and those frames are getting horrendously expensive. I almost had a heart attack
Gotcha.
when I so I can have pieces that are small watercolor pieces that'll go about 50, 150.
Okay.
I look at it by the inch. That's how I
All right.
pay for it. How I do it.
So 150 up to like 2 or 3,000. Would that be a fair assessment?
I'm trying to keep it. I've lowered my expectations. I've kept it about less than 2,000.
Okay. Well, I figure
Because
since this is going to be seen by people around the world, like in Dubai, they have money, so it's $10,000 to $20,000 for your art. That'll be enough. There you go.
all right, yep,
Times
10,000 to
yeah,
20,000.
yeah. There you go.
By the time you pay
So
the
it's perfect.
shipping, probably, yeah. By the
Yeah,
time
and
Well,
you,
yeah,
then the
you
ship
didn't count the
shipping is
shipping.
nothing.
Yeah, shipping
So
is
well, the interesting thing is we buy stuff from around the world and we have them send it unframed, and then we have them send the instructions to our framer, and then this way
yes,
it's just in a tube. Makes it a lot easier.
yes.
Unless like with your stuff, it's your art is wrapped around a specific frame because of the way it goes. They may not be able to get it wherever
Well,
somebody
there
is.
there are some
Yep.
pieces that I have. They're 3 dimensional, not 2 dimensional, and
Right.
like that I've done on trees where you're doing the lines, the H lines,
Right.
and that's 3 dimensional. So that one couldn't be wrapped into a tube.
No, that's going to be shipped in a crate. So see,
Yes.
for the people in Dubai, it's easy. They'll send their plane for you. It's perfect.
Oh, okay,
So
fine.
there you go. Well, thank you. This is your work is beautiful and gorgeous. We'll have her link below, so you can see all of Sharon's work. If you can't figure out how to get a hold of her, get a hold of us or get a hold of Paul, and we'll put you in contact. And that's it. Thank you so much, Paul. We'll see you
Thank
next
you,
Thursday
Steve.
with another guest.
you will.
Yes.
Pleasure. And don't forget to like and subscribe and go from there. All right, everybody. Have a great week. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
You're welcome.